All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is It's Going to Get Worse Before It Gets Worse. I'm joined with Elder Knock. And pretty much this is Elder Pastor had mentioned a title in his lesson that he just recently did. Not the last one, but the one right before that. And pretty much he had said something about zombies, something. And I was going to use that as a title, but I was And then at the very end of his video, he said it's going to get worse before it gets worse. I said, that's the title right there. So that's what we're going to get into. But before I say that, or before we get into that, what's up, hey, Vocab, what's up with your man, K-Dub? You know, he's being brought up on charges of adultery. I thought you Christians was, you know, holier than thou.
Yeah, squeaky clean.
Yeah, what's up? You know, what's up with your man? You know, they pulled all his funding. You know, he ain't getting no more funds for those allegations. So you Christians come at us, you act like you're holier than thou, you know, like you're gonna get on us because we just the wicked, evil devils. But you mother effers be doing a whole lot of wickedness, man. You know? But it's all coming out. The Lord is exposing you devils. But nevertheless, oh, and then the elder reminded me earlier that James White, the Edomite, was brought up on similar charges too. And you don't hear nothing about that dude. And one time, he was all over YouTube, Dr. James White, you know, and Paul started dubbed him Dr. James White, the Edomite. He said he's not an Edomite. Paul said, well, how do you know? You know, but nevertheless, it is what it is. So let's get into it. You know, pretty much this lesson is going to be centered around Lord's will, the time of Jacob's trouble. You know, we're going to go through Lord's will, Jeremiah, the 30th chapter. And there's a reason why Jacob's trouble is coming. First and foremost, prophecy. Second of all, the rebellion of Jacob. You know, Jacob is very rebellious. You know, the scriptures say, how long you simple ones will you love simplicity? And, you know, it's one thing when you don't know, you're ignorant. The Lord said at the time of their ignorance, he winked at them. You know, but when you have the truth constantly being pounded out after video of edification, warning, and education, and you don't take heed, then that's when the Lord brings a judgment. And this is the reason why Jacob's trouble is coming. Like I said, first and foremost, prophecy. Second of all, the rebellion of Jacob. Or Jacob's rebellion.
Jacob's rebellion. Yeah. All
right, so let's start off in we got Isaiah 1.
Yeah, I got Isaiah 1.
All right, let's read that, and then the other one, then we'll take it from there.
God. So Isaiah 1, I'm going to start at 3. It says, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel does not know, my people does not consider.
Right, so if you don't consider, that means when things get hard, like the woman that the Elder Mawadzazak did the video on, Elder Pastor was reacting to, you know, she doesn't consider the Most High. She, you know, came from the gutter, as she said. She rose up from the gutter, so she got her degrees and all that, was doing good, and you know, she was looking down on everybody else. You know, more than likely she was looking down on Jake, not giving him the time of day. Now there's lonely. Are you lonely tonight? You know, Salakia, the doves popping out. You know, she's lonely now and catching hell. But not once do these Jakes out here in the hood, you know, that's going through their calamities and stuff, consider that maybe God is mad at me. Maybe the Heavenly Father is mad at me. You know, and all of these videos going out, and you know what I thought about earlier too, when Elder Pastor said that about the woman, right? He said that she probably was talking shit about you know, the truth, and I thought about that Rasta Skank video, you know, that came out. I forgot what year that was. That had to be maybe 09, maybe. No, couldn't be 09 because 09 we were on Daily Motion, but it was back then sometime. And you had that video went viral. and you had a lot of Jakes that was on it talking shit, cursing us out. I was actually on the comment board cursing people out on the comment board. You know, I remember them days. And pretty much, people think you could talk shit about the Lord, you could talk shit about His truth, you could do whatever you want, and you're gonna go unpunished. Well, that's Esau's mentality. You know, you've adopted the Edomite mentality today here in America, you Israelites.
You're of your father the devil.
That's
They
right.
had that same mentality back when Yahushua was on the scene. They've really always had it, you know, the rebellious spirit of Jake.
Yep.
It says, the ox knoweth his owner, and his ass his master's crib.
Uh-huh.
But Israel does not know, my people does not consider.
Go ahead.
Our sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity,
I mean you're pickled in it. Go ahead.
a seed of evildoers,
Seed of evildoers.
children that are corrupters.
Uh-huh.
They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger.
Which means they knew the way of the Lord, forsaken them. Because these Jakes, they don't really have no excuse. Everyone's on social media, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, or whatever, and videos are everywhere. The elder Manatazak, one of the main ones. I'm sure other elders do it too, but he's one of the main ones that's surfing TikTok videos to find videos about the Hebrew Israelites. Right?
Yep. It says they are gone all way backward.
They are going all the way backward, meaning that you knew the right way, but you choose to go the other way, which technically you don't choose, but we're going to leave it at that for the moment.
Verse 5. Why should ye be stricken anymore? Ye will revolt more and more.
Yeah, why should you be stricken anymore? You will revolt more and your ass kicked, handed to you. You know, you've been, being ripped out the frame for how long? And you're still going to revolt more and more. Go ahead.
It says the whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot even unto the head, there's no soundness in it.
Yeah, because they don't grasp or get into, the source that would help them to be delivered from these situations. They continue on the path of the serpent.
It says, but wounds.
And I'm not talking about that little river, out there in Israel, beginning at Edom and ending at Megiddo, the little river of fire.
It says, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores.
Right. This is all of the the curses, the low state, the situations that Jake finds himself in every day, and they made a documentary on it. As Elder Apostle Rakah calls it, they cloned Tyrone. They made a documentary on you, Jakes, on how you conduct yourself, on how it's like a factory line, assembly line of the way Jake is. It's an assembly line. So much so that you even have the other nations trying to be like Jake.
Yep.
They showed this Japanese dude. Right? I don't know if he might be a Jake or not, but he had I forgot what they called them shits. That shit that Kodak Black got in his head? That demonic shit?
Dread or something?
Yeah, them big I forgot what they call them shits. But the Ammonite dude, I don't know if he's a Jake or not, he had the same exact shit. That shit was perfect, like Kodak Black shit. So that clone Tyrone spirit that Esau used in America to make Jake pretty much all the same is catching on to all the way around the world.
Yeah. We're the salt of the earth, but Esau uses that salt, for his demonic way, his demonic benefit of blaming Jake, of making our people degenerate, keeping them in a low state. Even when Jake wants to, make their situation better, he doesn't allow that. He wants you to stay in that clone Tyrone spirit.
Yeah, because he knows as long as you're in that spirit, you're not a threat.
That's it.
And by what I'm sorry, okay?
No. As long as you are sinning against your power,
Yep.
The book of Judah chapter goes into it. The nations knew if we sin against our power, only then will they have preeminence over us and be able to take us down and oppress us.
That's it.
But if we are one with our power, it's impossible for them to come against us.
That's it. And the Lord handed us over to them. Why? Because, of our rebellion. And like I said, there's lessons that could be done on the reason why, Jake as a whole goes off and all that. It's pretty much all, set up that way. But nevertheless, we're still here.
Yeah, it says, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores, they have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment.
Right, and we giving you the ointment, what you could use to put on these different open sores. We're giving you the spiritual black walnut.
That's it.
Whether it's the tincture or the oil. But you're not accepting it. We're giving you them different plasters. Like I believe that was Isaiah that made this plaster. I think it was a figs or something like that to put on. Was that Hezekiah? He had this, I think, something on his leg, and he was about to die.
It was basically a cancerous sore.
Right. And pretty much that healed him. And I know there was other instances. I think Asa was another one where he went to the naturopaths, for lack of better words, back then, and he went to them, So it's you Jakes are not accepting the healing that it takes for you to get healed from inside spiritually.
Yep, it says,
which is the word. The words.
That's it. Well, yeah, like Yahushua told his disciples, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead.
Yeah.
That was all in the form of teaching this word. Okay, this is how you are going to be spiritually healed.
That's it.
And spiritually raised from the dead. Okay.
Yeah, because this word heals you spiritually and it heals you physically.
Yep. Verse 7, your country is desolate, your cities are burned with fire.
Okay, that's it on that. Go to the one in Jeremiah 5, and then we could, Lord's will, go to Jeremiah 30. We're cutting across here, right?
So Jeremiah 5 and 23, but this people has a revolting and rebellious heart.
So you might ask, well, why is the Heavenly Father going to judge Israel so harsh? And why is he going to bring these calamities upon him? Why is he going to put hell on the people that he loves? Well, read it again.
Yep, it says, but this people has a revolting and rebellious heart.
So to revolt means to go back, to go against, So that means that there's a way. There's something that's being told them, which are the ways of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. I will give you pastors according to my heart, which I'll feed you with knowledge and understanding. And you're pushing against it. Like at one time the Apostle Paul was pushing against it. And what did Yahushua tell him? He said, it's
hard for thee to kick against the pricks.
Right, it's the water. It's hard for thee to kick against the pricks. So you're kicking against the very remedy that's needed to help you in these situations. And the scriptures say, being often reproved, like Jake has been often reproved, hardeneth his neck, shall be destroyed, and afterwards without remedy.
That's it. Yeah, because this is the actual remedy. And Jake is fighting the actual medicine, because the medicine is too bitter. It's too bitter for them to bear in this time. They want it all sweet. They want smooth things. Yep. They want deceit, and the Lord is about 100% truth.
That's it.
And you have truth. Well, they say the truth is hard to swallow.
Yep. The truth hurts.
The truth hurts.
You can't handle the truth.
It says, but this people has a revolting and rebellious heart. They are revolted and gone.
They are revolted and gone, and that's the point. So this is why the Lord is going to bring the pain. The Lord is going to be the ultimate. I came to bring the pain. He's going to bring the pain. The answer to you being rebellious is pain. So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 30, unless you got something.
Oh, no.
Jeremiah chapter 30, and we can start at the top. Verse 1. We're going to cross here. Yeah, so, the time of Jacob's trouble, right now it's bad. And it's getting worse. It's going to get worse before it gets worse. And really only at the very end is when the deliverance is going to actually come.
Yep. This is
straight. What we call it?
We're gonna go across here and up Burlingame.
Okay.
This is Jeremiah 30 and 1. It says, the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord power of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come, said the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah.
Right. So to bring back the captivity means to deliver us, free us from slavery. And that's what the Lord is going to do. But right now, he's giving us the blueprint on how to get there. Morning. He's giving us a blueprint, morning. He's giving us a blueprint on how to get there. Fuck you too, bitch.
Yep. It says, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that
because the Lord is going to bring us back to the land, not yourself. You got the brother, I think his name is Thafia, the big Benjaminite brother, which looks like he lost weight. He's looking pretty good. He's eating better. He's not eating garbage, American garbage diet, so he is looking a lot better, but really technically he shouldn't really be in that land, because that land is going to be destroyed. But go ahead.
Yep, it says, and these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus said the Lord, you have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace.
Yep, the voice of trembling, of fear, not of peace. And that's what we're telling you. But what did Jake do? Oh, you guys are just fear-mongering. You're just trying to get Jake scared. We already went through our hardship. We already went through Jacob's trouble. We ain't going through that no more. That's gone. There ain't going to be no Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble is gay. All right.
It says...
So that what we're witnessing is Jacob's rebellion.
Yeah, that's it. Well, the scriptures say that through the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. So, yeah, we are fear-mongering in a way. But in righteousness.
There you go.
Okay, we're telling you what the Lord's going to do. You should fear him.
Yep.
At the beginning of knowledge.
That's it.
Okay, verse 6. Ask ye now and see whether a man does travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins?
Right, because that's a representation of pain, extreme uncontrollable pain. Where you are in such pain that you can't even stand up. You got to bend over, hold your stomach, crouch down or sit down because the pain is unbearable.
Yep, it says a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. So
what did Jeremiah see? He saw Jake in the future, being, more than likely carted off, and well, not more than likely carted off into these detention centers. Yep. So-called concentration camps, catching hell, being destitute, nothing to eat, trying to get away from these troops, and the troops gathering them, carting them up, throwing them in these, these different trucks, FEMA trucks or whatever other trucks they have, to pretty much, cart them off to these detention centers where they're going to be micro-C-hipped. Processed, find out who's who, what's what, They may do the same thing that they did in the movie Handmaid's Tale, where they find out what females are fertile and which females are not, which females have diseases, which females do not, and then they take the ones that are fertile and use them as handmaids, to bring forth, the monsters of these devils.
Yep, it says, verse 7, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
So the time of Jacob's trouble is coming because you rebel against the Lord. But the elect are going to be saved out of it. That's the thing, get Psalms 124 and 7. I think it starts at 7. I think the point is at 8, but it starts at 7.
Psalms 124, verse 7. Our soul is escaped.
There you go.
As a bird out of the snare of the fowlers.
Right. So basically that means the elect are going to be caught in this man's web. They're going to be, hauled off. Certain ones of them are going to be hauled off to these detention centers. you know, where they're processing people, you know, telling them, look, if you take this micro C-hip, you know, we could, you know, you can be in this particular city and you're going to be good. You know, we'll set you up. You have an apartment. You know, you can roam freely in this 15-minute city. You know, you'll get rations every day. You know, you won't have to pay for anything. Everything will be paid for. You know, we'll give you an allowance every week, so on and so forth. All you have to do is take this device, the micro C-hip, you know, and a majority of the are going to take it, but the elect are going to refuse. And when the elect refuse, that's when they'll set them off somewhere else, may get tortured, may get beheaded, you know, but the thing is that the majority of the elect are not going to be touched. Right?
It says, our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, and we are escaped.
That's the point. The snare is broken, and we are escaped. But it's not just that simple. You know, when you get a chance, you know, now, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It says, our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth.
Right. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. That's the point. The point is knowing those names, calling upon those names, but more importantly, being a part of the elect. Now, we don't know if we are or not, but what do? We give diligence to make our calling and election sure. We definitely know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we've been called, because we all had, you know, different goals, aspirations, things that we were doing in the world, you know, directions that we were going. But the Lord took that away and brought us into this new and living way. So
let's lock it.
Bring it out.
Yeah, Proverbs 18:10. The name of the Lord is strong tower.
Beautiful.
The righteous runneth into it and is safe.
And that's it. Because when the scriptures say the angel of the Lord encampeth around them that fear him to deliver them, because they're comfortable, they're, you know, stabilized and trusting in the names of Yahweh and his son Yahushai. Bottom line. Anybody else teaching you that those names are not important, we don't know the names, we don't have the names, we'll get the names in the kingdom, just call them Jesus and Most High and God and all that, don't listen to them people. They're leading you astray. You know, that's them ravenous wolves, not sparing the sheep. Because if you really love the sheep, if you really, is this? Yeah. If you really love the sheep, if you really were about sparing the sheep, you know, you would give them those names, beginning with those names. Then after that, then you would teach them the whole truth. And you would also warn them of the dangers that are coming. If you're supposed to be a shepherd, matter of fact, get Amos 5 and 7. If you were a true shepherd, you would be warning the sheep, you know, of what's coming. You would be constantly sounding that alarm, especially the closer it gets, the more intense, you know, the alarm gets. You know, like when you have a dog, right? A guard dog, you know, he'll bark if he hears something. Then, you know, the closer it gets, he starts barking his head off, going crazy. Why? To warn whoever's in the house that danger is coming.
This is Amos 5 and 7.
And then we can read it in the NLT too.
Okay. Ye who turn judgment to wormwood,
Woo!
And leave off righteousness in the earth.
Right, because that's you leaders out there. Now get it in the NLT, Babakusha. You good?
Yeah.
You know, hey, this is for you so-called leaders out there that are leaving the sheep unprotected, that are not building a hedge, you know, for the sheep to be protected in these days. You know, whether they accept it or not, your job is not to decide who is the elect and who's not. Your job is just to teach and to warn. Push the names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Push the doctrine upon them. Make sure that they're getting the truth. Make sure that they're being well fed. Make sure that they're snug and stable in the names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Then the Lord will sift out the rest.
Well, they put livestock in a stable.
Beautiful.
And that's the prophet, the watchman. He's supposed to be that stable, and he's also supposed to be that sheepdog.
Yep.
As well as the shepherd with a shepherd's hook. He's supposed to fill all those roles of taking care of the actual flock.
Yeah.
And you have certain individuals that are not taking care of the flock. They're actually wolves in sheep clothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, a shepherd has to wear a lot of hats. Hey, remember what the Apostle Paul said? He got all these afflictions coming upon him, all these needs and wants, and being in treachery, in the deep, in the cold, and hungry, and all of that stuff that he was catching hell from, false brethren, catching hell from his own countrymen. And then on top of that, he said, and on top of that, to add more woe to me, the care of the flock, the care of the churches. So he wears many hats. He has to, make sure that everything is running properly, and not just for himself, because a true leader is not one that can lead himself, but one that can lead himself and lead also.
And with that comes a great responsibility.
Here we go.
This is Amos 5:7 in the NLT. You twisting justice, making it a bitter pill for the oppressed.
Right, you what? Read it again.
It says you twist justice, making it a bitter pill for the oppressed.
Making it a bitter pill for the oppressed. Because all that you're doing is going to lead Jake, which is the oppressed, down the wrong path. And then when they finally get down the end of that path, they're going to be asked out, not with nothing to cover them with. You're going to lead them into total darkness and devastation.
Yeah, you're leading them to the slaughter.
That's it, beautiful.
Basically, to be a simple term, straight to the point, these false prophets, these ravening wolves in sheep's clothing, these false watchmen, false teachers, you're leading the sheep, you're leading Jake to the slaughter. You're preparing a troop for the. How does it go? I think that's Isaiah 65.
Yeah.
And prepare a table for that troop.
Yeah, there you go. You could get that if you want.
Okay.
We're done with that.
Kind.
Because that building on the leaders. That's why it says the leaders of this people cause them to err.
Yep. So let me get that. Isaiah.
So if you want to be a leader, if you want to fancy yourself a leader, you gotta be ready to put everybody first and have to put yourself last. Sometimes, in most cases, to make sure that the flock is fed, watered, and prepared for what's coming. Because when the Lord told Ezekiel to curse out them false prophets, they didn't build up the hedge. They didn't give Jake, any boundaries or, any warning as to what was coming, so that they could be protected in those days.
Yeah, like in hurricane country, right? When the people know that there's a hurricane, what do? They get the sandbags.
Yep.
They basically build a hedge to protect their property.
Woo.
And basically, our people are the leaders of our people. They're not doing that to be able to make sure that the flock is taken care of. Because the house is valuable. You don't want water to come and consume the house and uplift the foundation and water rot everything. You want to protect it. So you build that hedge around the house, so the water, when it comes and crashes, it doesn't come and seep in. Okay?
Yeah, so you could protect you, your family, your loved ones, and everything that's inside.
That's it. Isaiah 65:11. But ye are they that forsake the Lord, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop.
Right, so you're preparing a table for that troop. You're setting up Jake for the slaughter. And the thing about it is, you think you're doing something prolific, but what you don't understand is that the Most High got you doing that, because you are a stumbling block. And you are set up as a Judas goat to lead astray the flock that the Lord ain't dealing with. That's what makes it so heavy at the end.
Yep, it says, that forget my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish the drink offering unto that number. Right,
and that furnish a drink offering unto that number, meaning you're feeding them and giving them the wrong drink. And that drink that you're giving them and that food that you're giving them is setting them up for failure. It's setting them up for destruction. It's setting them up for Jacob's trouble.
Yep. It says, therefore will I number you to the sword, and ye shall all bow down to the slaughter.
So the Lord's going to number you to the sword, and you're going to bow down to the slaughter. That's why Yahweh said, let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, they shall both of them fall into a ditch. And when you fall into that ditch, you ain't going to be able to get out. Now, when the elect fall in that ditch, as we read in Psalms 124, the Lord said he's going to break that snare. and the elect are going to escape. Why? Because they trust and call upon the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and they do what's required of them to the best of their ability.
It says, because when I called, ye did not answer. When I spake, ye did not hear, but did evil before my eyes, and did not choose that wherein I delighted not.
Right. And that's why the Lord's going to bring the time of Jacob's trouble upon you. You know, that was it on that, right?
I mean, I can read a little bit more.
Yeah.
It said, therefore, thus said the Lord, power, because this is going into Jacob's trouble.
There you go.
Behold, my servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servant shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servant shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed.
Yeah, so because of Jacob's rebellion, you're going to suffer Jacob's trouble.
Behold, my servant shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart.
And you have to understand that when all hell is breaking loose, and there's such devastation and chaos and confusion, you know, and the people are terrorized, for someone to, in a situation like that, to be able to laugh at that, at famine and calamities and stuff, what type of mindset would they have to have? And that shows you that, like the scriptures say, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure.
It says, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit.
Right, you're going to howl for vexation of spirit because the time of Jacob's trouble is going to be on you. Now you have these women starting to finally realize that they done fucked up, you know, that their lives are miserable. You know, they have, you know, fun, like that woman. She went to college, so you know she was, you know, I'm pretty sure she was freaking off in them colleges. You know, having the time of her life, you know. These other losers, you know, they're looking at Jake, looking down upon them, you know, getting bust down by probably Esau, the other nations, you know, and other Jakes or whatever the case may be. But now that time is gone and all the goodies are gone, and the Lord cut you off, you know, from them teats, from them goodies, now you want to cry. Now you want to lament. Now you want people to feel sorry for you, when you didn't feel sorry for people when they was catching hell. She probably the type of chick that'll see a homeless individual and not give him shit, you know. And the reason, I'm just saying probably, you know, I don't know who she is, you know, but I'm just saying that that's usually, you know, the mentality of these women. They won't help anybody in need except for themselves.
Yeah, they're succubuses.
Ooh.
You know, they're all about taking till there's nothing left. And now what the Lord is going to do is he's taking everything from you, all your comforts.
That's it.
Because a woman, above all, she desires comfort and security.
That's it.
And you're not going to have that, okay, in this time, save you are with a man of the Lord, okay?
Yeah. And what proves that they love that comfort is them big Shirleys talking about they need a man that's over 6 feet tall, you know, athletic build, six-pack, you know, making six figures, you know. Meanwhile, you don't got to do nothing but sit on your fat ass, you know, and just reap. No, you ain't. What did you do that's worthy of you getting that? You know, what did you do that is worthy of you, you know, receiving someone like that? You're not a prize, you know.
I mean, I mean, where you want to go from there?
We could go back to Jeremiah 30.
Okay.
Unless you had something.
I had Isaiah 32.
Bring it out.
Isaiah 32:9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters.
Yeah.
Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women.
See, no one escapes. You're going to catch hell. You either catch hell now or you catch hell later. But you're going to catch hell one way or the other.
Yeah, you either pay up now or pay up later.
That's it.
But you're going to pay. Okay, the Most High requires, he requires that you pay. Nobody gets off.
That's it.
It says, ye careless women, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come.
The vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. Because what's the reason why this woman, you know, now, and I'm just speaking in women in general, go to these colleges to be able to get these degrees, to get good jobs so they can get that bag, right? But that gathering ain't coming. And guess what? I'm 100% positive that she's still in debt from them college fees, catching hell from that, and still got to pay that, you know, in her low condition that she's in.
Well, not one time did you hear about, but she had in that video, she had a child.
Yep.
And at one time, did she speak about the father? She's like, where's the father at?
That's it.
And like damn near 99% of the time, the woman is the one who initiated the separation.
Yep.
So if it was that bad, why can't she get back with the father?
That's it.
Man, these women are demons.
Oh yeah, all the way. But then she's up there trying to make you feel sorry for her. You know, she's crying, her boo-hooing, you know, but she ain't telling the world the misery and the hell that she caused men.
She's basically throwing a net out to get another sucker.
There you go.
That's all that video was about.
Yep.
You know, to get pity from one of these captive slaves. The saver out of that situation. Okay. And once she's done with him, she's gonna throw him away.
Oh yeah. Save me, Cap. Once she get her footing back, it's over.
Verse 11, tremble ye women that are at ease, be troubled ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins.
Right, strip you and make you bare, because, you know, one thing they do is when they start, you know, getting into this world and, you know, dressing up, the hairstyles, the manicures, the pedicures, being dolled up, the perfumes, the latest, the top fashion, you know, the makeup and all that. But the Lord says, strip you and make you bare, put sackcloth upon you. Because all of that shit that you had is going to be stripped from you. And a lot of these people, you know, have to end up selling all their goods in order to be able to make ends meet.
That's it.
You know, all their valuables, their jewelry, their clothing, all of that stuff that's of any value to them.
They got to sell it. Yeah, we're going straight.
They got to sell it.
Okay.
But they're catching hail.
It says, and make you bare. Well, just like Babylon the Great, the Most High is stripping Babylon. We good. And making Babylon bare and uncovering her secret places.
That's it.
You women are being uncovered too.
Yeah,
all right, for being the weaker vessel. All right, and the vessel that because you women, the only way you're going to be delivered is if you're with a man of the Lord. Okay, so the Lord is about to expose all these so-called independent women, and it's going to be hard for you to bow down. But either you're going to get with it or you're going to get lost. Okay, it says, they shall lament for the teats.
In that day, 7 women shall take hold of 1 man.
It says, they shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine.
Yeah, you're going to be lamented for all. I used to have this. I used to have that. I used to make, you know, 100,000 a year. You know, I lived in a good, nice little place and this, that, and the other, and I had all the amenities, and I never had, you know, want for anything. You're going to miss all of that. You're going to miss all your goodies.
Yeah, that was it on that. Let me go back to Jeremiah. God.
Woo.
Jeremiah 30. And I'll start at.
I know we read 7.
Yeah, let me start at 7 again. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved out of it.
Right, the elect are going to be saved out of Jacob's trouble. Go ahead.
For it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck.
Right, and how is the yoke going to be broken? Get Isaiah chapter 10 and 20. And then jump down to the 27th verse.
It's Isaiah 10 and 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob,
this is dealing with the elect,
shall no more again stay upon him that smote them,
right, which is Esau,
but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth.
In truth. See? Now jump to the 27th verse.
Verse 27.
And this truth is what's going to break that yoke, that bondage, those mental chains that Jake has, you know, in this society, which we all were in that position. Remember in Revelation 13, it said the whole world wandered after the beast. So everybody was following after the beast, you know? Everybody was in that mindset in one way or the other. But then the truth, like Yahweh said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free or make you free.
We're gonna make it right up there.
Okay.
Verse 27, and it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder,
Right. The burden is that yoke.
and his yoke from off thy neck. And the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing.
See, the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. And that's the point. The anointing, which is the truth, which is the eye salve, which is the oil, which is the water, which is the milk, so on and so forth, that's what's going to break that yoke off of the neck of the elect. And that's what we're reading in the book of Jeremiah chapter 30. We'll go back there.
Done. Jeremiah 30:8, for it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him.
Yep.
But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king.
Right. Because, we know who David, the King David is. These individuals like Pastor Mike, talking about, who's the king in Deuteronomy 28:36. That's King David. And it said that we would be looking for our king in the latter days. And that's where we're at right now, in the latter days. The king came, he went, just like Elijah came and he went. So either you accept it or you don't. It's of no consequence to us.
Yep. It says, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, said the Lord. Neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed.
What? I'm saved from what?
I will save thee from afar.
I will save thee from afar, meaning where? All the way over here in the what they call the Western Hemisphere.
Yep. It says,
because the word right now, is what's going out to the airwaves and sealing the elect. The Lord said what about the word? That the word, he would gather them from the west to the east by the word of the Holy One.
Yep. It says, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity.
Right. And what is the land of our captivity? America. That's why it says, in a place where it was said unto them, ye are not the sons of the living power, there shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. Pretty much. Go ahead.
And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest.
Right. And the word there, return, means shawab. They will be converted or brought back or redeemed. And brought back to what? To rest. What is the rest? The kingdom. Okay? And that's because didn't the Apostle Paul said, there remaineth a rest for the children of Israel? So we're not in our rest yet. Micah 2, it says that this is not our rest. Depart from it, for it is polluted. It will destroy you even with a sword of destruction.
That's it. Yep. It says, Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid.
That's it.
For I am with thee, said the Lord, to save thee, though I make a full end of all the nations, whether I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee.
Why? Because he promised Abraham that his seed would inherit what the Lord told him they would inherit. And the Lord is bound by his word.
Yep. Sloppy.
Yep. This, all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, it says, I'm not sure if it, I don't know. We have the mic over.
Yeah. I mean, it cut over.
I think it did, yeah.
But that's how the sun's over there.
God. It says, verse 11, for I am with thee, said the Lord, to save thee, though I make a full end of all the nations, whether I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished.
That's why Jake is catching hell, right? And right now the elect are being purged. Go to Daniel 11, what is that, 44, 45? Some of them shall be made white, something like that. Tried. What's that go? Well, that's probably another good one too. Matter of fact, if you got the one in Daniel 12, you could get that one.
But you said the one in Daniel 11, you said around
44 around there, 43, 44, 45, if I'm not mistaken. Where it really is, that's going back into Antiochus Epiphany, and the catching hell, the Maccabees and all that. But the point was that some of them of understanding would fall, that they may be tried and made pure and made white. So we don't have to get it. So go ahead.
Yeah, this is Daniel 12:10. Many shall be purified and made white and tried,
That's it. And that's talking about now.
but
Okay.
the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall
And
understand.
that's why vocab can't get it. That's why Dr. James White, the Edomite, can't get it. That's why Dr. Brown, another devil that was brought up on sexual harassment charges. You know, hey, you notice all these devils that come against us,
Damn.
the Lord deals with them. But Jake still don't, they don't consider that. That wait a minute, all these guys been coming up against Great Millstone, the Hebrew Israelites, and the Lord been dealing with them. Jacking them up, revealing them. But then they still talk shit about us. The peg master.
Yep. Remember Rap the News?
Oh man.
The Lord took him out, polite.
Yep.
What's it called? African Bombada. I'm not sure if he came against, but he within that community.
Oh yeah.
They're all getting
Bambooty.
Yeah, African Bambooty.
Well, he's through. They got his ass. He's going down. He's gonna be probably a cellmate with Polite
And Diddy. But the wise shall understand.
But the wise shall understand. So let's go back.
Yep.
Unless you had something.
No. Jeremiah 30 and 12. For thus said the Lord, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous.
That's it.
There is none to plead thy cause.
Right, because ain't nobody really pleading the cause for Jake. You go to the United Nations building, which is supposed to be a building that's supposed to, deal with the affairs of the world, right? Everybody's problem. There's nobody there, pleading for our cause.
Yeah, representing Jake. Ain't nobody there representing Jake. And then the so-called leaders that they do have representing for Jake, like Diddy. Diddy was so-called representative for black community. Look what's happening to him. Farrakhan. Okay, all these I don't know some of these guys.
Yeah,
There's so many of them that come and go, and so many scandals,
yep.
and so much bullshit that Jake doesn't really have a leader.
Right.
And
the leaders that they do have causing the air, even leaders that know that they're Israelites.
Yep, it says, there's none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up.
That thou mayest be bound up, meaning healed, meaning when you are sick, you nobody there to take care of you, to make sure that you're given the right, righteous medicine to help heal you.
Yeah, like if you have like a deadly cut or a wound, you need the medic to come in, clean the wound,
yep.
Put the different medicines on it, and then bind it up, patch it up.
Yep.
That's not being done with our people. Okay, it says, thou hast no healing medicines. Let me read that again. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. Okay, and the truth is the healing medicine, but you reject it.
That's it.
And you're going to these other philosophies, these other doctrines, which seem to be a medicine. It's going to get, like the Islam, it's good for the community. And, certain Jakes, they stop, doing certain crimes and stuff.
Drugs.
So, yeah, drugs, and they try to clean up the community and give away turkeys. So it seems like it's beneficial to our people, but it's actually, a pharmaceutical. It might mask the symptom, but you're still killing yourself.
Yep.
And then other symptoms arise. So it's really snake medicine.
Yeah.
It's
still cutthroats within that organization, lowlifes, pieces of shit.
That's it. It says, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy.
Woo, and that's why Jake is, man, the putrefying sores. You see that. And Jake has been in a low state many times, but this time, right now, is just horrible. The Pookie, Ray, Big Shirley, Keisha, Felicia era, this has been like the worst, that Jake has been, as a people. You're destroying yourself. Everything that you do is totally destructive.
And you call that culture. That's the thing about it. You're destroying yourself, and you call that culture, whether it's black or Hispanic culture. and you are proud of it. You're proud of this is your culture of destruction. And the nations, they never at one time say, no, you're not supposed to do that. No, you need to do better. This is actually harming you. What did they do? They egg you on.
Yep.
They give you the ability to be even more degenerate. They allow your platforms to grow, yep, and to prosper, and for you to have influence on the other, the other Jakes.
Yep.
Because they want you in a perpetual state of throughness. They want you finished.
Yep.
Okay, they want you destroyed. This was their plan.
Yeah.
What is that? Lamentation, the second chapter.
Yep.
This is the day that we look for.
Yep.
This is what we wanted. This the city that they call perfection of beauty.
God. And then they sell you the diet that helps destroy you more. They sell you the clothing, materials, fabrics that help bring you into a low vibration. They sell you the chemicals that put in your hair, on your body,
yep,
in your mouth. They sell you, the fake hair, and all that shit that comes with it, that is just slowly but surely destroying you and causing you to bug the fuck out. Mm-hmm. Now it's coming out that Shirley and N-Dub, they're getting cancer from them goddamn.
I was about to say that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say that from them perms, them straightening,
yep,
that shit, you straighten hair and shit, they getting cancer from it.
There you go.
And it's a big, so-called a big lawsuit. But Esau, he's not gonna, you're not gonna take him to court and win.
Right.
And the damage has already been done. And then you got certain of our people that say, I don't even give a shit, I'ma still do it.
Oh yeah.
Because they're so sunken. They're in that sunken place.
There you go.
Okay.
And even if you do win, let's say you do win, what is all that money gonna do for you? And you got fucking brain cancer. You got tumors in your head from all that shit. Who gonna enjoy that? Other people gonna enjoy that, not you. Because you're not gonna even have the presence of mind. Right now. Now dealing with brain injuries and shit like that. One of my favorite artists out there, Billy Joel, he was diagnosed with some type of brain disorder. He's fully V'd. And I'm just throwing it out there because here it is. He canceled tours because he can't keep it together anymore.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying? So what good is all of those riches, hits, and all that gonna do him now if his brain gives out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just a manifestation of how our people are as a whole.
Yep.
The brain, the head, we just read, the whole head is sick.
There you go.
It's really a spirit. It's really spiritually, they're gone. So there's really no medicine that you can give them. The only remedy for them is to be burned up.
There you go.
Okay, in Babylon the Great, or destroyed throughout the different parts of the earth and come back in the kingdom. That's the remedy.
Yeah, because some of these chicks out here, they cannot be rehabilitated. We've tried, but guess what? We can't afford you no more. Inside joke. In all seriousness, Jake, there's a lot of Jake out here that cannot be rehabilitated. They're not rehabilitatable, if that's even a word.
Yeah, it says, for I have wounded thee with a wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one.
With the chastisement of a cruel one. Because the Lord, as much as the Lord loves us, he became cold towards us. That's why we went into the captivity. But even in our captivity, in the book of Jeremiah, somewhere in the book of Jeremiah, the Lord said when we went into captivity, he cried. Because we're the apple of his eye. But I gotta teach you mother effers a lesson, You see? So the Lord turned cold. And he said, all right, y'all wanna do that? All right, I got you. Don't worry about it. You're gonna suffer.
Yep. With the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy iniquities, because thy sin was increased.
Right, because thy sin was increased, and that's why Jacob is gonna go into, the time of Jacob's trouble, because rehabilitation ain't gonna do it. Talking to them ain't gonna do it. They're not gonna listen. They're not gonna change their ways. So guess what? The next step is Jacob's trouble.
I believe the Apostle Elder Gabari says when words
can't teach,
affliction
will teach.
Affliction, something like that. Adversity will.
Adversity will. There you go.
So Jake needs that adversity, but even then, the adversity that they're going through is not going to really teach them the lesson until they get put to death. Then when they come back in the kingdom, then they're, oh, damn. When they go before the Most High, then, oh, I got, I learned my lesson.
Yep.
The saints shall know it after death by pain.
There you go.
Okay.
Hey, don't the scriptures say, reprove a wise man and he will be yet wiser? I believe there's a scripture like that. I know there's said one, reprove a wise man, he will love thee.
Yeah.
And another one, I believe, says, reprove a wise man and he will be yet wiser. Reproval is what? Correction. So how many times has Jake been corrected? Come up talking shit, on the videos talking shit, watching the videos for entertainment, So, it's to the point where certain Jakes out here cannot be rehabilitated. And the reason why they can't be rehabilitated, because they were appointed to that to be destroyed.
It says, verse 15, it says, why criest thou for thy affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thy iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee.
Yeah, so when Jacob's trouble hits, a lot of you Jakes are going to be crying. You're going to be, hysterical. You're going to be, oh, somebody should do something. Oh, my God, Jesus, please. The Lord, there ain't going to be no help for you. Sweet Jesus ain't going to come and coddle you, and give you what you want. Because you refuse the very instructions that would be the ones to help you, to be shielded from the things that are coming.
It says, therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity.
Right, and that's what we have to look forward to. Yeah, we catching hell. We've been through it. Esau gonna have his final hurrah moment where he gonna fuck a lot of Jakes up. But guess what? In the long run, and not just Esau, the other nations too, but in the long run, they're going to have to pay for that. Because every last one of these heathens, every last one of them, however many billions of heathens are on the planet, all are going to go into captivity. Every last one of them.
Yep, it says, and all thy adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity.
Yep, and every one of them shall go into captivity. And what?
And they that spoil thee shall be spoiled. And all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey.
Right, and all of these nations, they're going into captivity. Every last one of them. I don't care what vocab says. I don't care what any of those other so-called apologists say. Pastor Mike, the other individual, the smart Christian, all of you individuals, don't matter what you say, the nations are going into captivity. They're not going to enjoy the kingdom with us. They're going to be servants under us, and that's what they were created to be.
For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, said the Lord, because they called thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion whom no man seeketh after.
Right, this is Zion whom no man seeketh after. Look up that word outcast real quick. Because the Lord is gathering the outcasts of Israel. You want to go through here, you want to...
Whatever you want.
That's cool. This is cool right here. So
that word outcast is nada.
Yep.
It says to impale, thrust, drive away, banish.
Right. So outcast means what? Another word for outcast is exile. We were thrust out, cast out of our land. And also we were thrust out, cast out of being recognized among the nations. Matter of fact, we could get that one. If you got more.
No, that was it on that.
All right. So to go to Numbers 23, I believe is verse 9. And then we'll come back to that verse and read that verse again.
This is Numbers 23, verse 9. It says, for from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him.
That's Balaam, the diviner, right? So-called prophet. He was looking at Israel. And this is what he said.
Lo, the people shall dwell alone.
See, the people shall dwell alone. Meaning, this is why the Lord gave us the law, statutes, and commandments. To separate us. What made us holy? The law, statutes, and commandments. The Lord did that to separate us. So we're a separate entity of people. Unrecognized among, the writings, I guess you could say, for lack of better words. Or among the other nations. This is why when they look at Jake, they don't see anybody. This is why Esau, in the Constitution, said that Jake was 3/5 of a man.
Yeah.
You know, because we're not really recognized in their eyes. See,
The Indian tribes, they were savages,
savages.
you
Yep.
know, which is not even recognized as the actual
People.
people. You know, that's the whole. That's what they all consulted together with Psalms 83.
Yep.
The Israel may be no more in remembrance. You know what? As a people,
Yep.
now you are just chattel. You're just property to do as Esau and the other nations will, to take advantage of you.
There you go.
Okay. And ultimately they want to do away with Israel. They want to take you out.
Yep.
That's why they have their AI in motion. You know, AI boxers and AI basketball players.
Yep.
You know, because they studied you already. You know, they studied you, and then basically now they want to put their technology inside you. Okay, and only allow certain of you to actually procreate, right?
Just to keep the pot going.
Yep.
Hey, remember the Georgia Guidestones, which they destroyed, you know, some time back. You know, maintain humanity under 500 million. They want to be able to have a, you know, just enough to do what they need and not have to be chasing billions of people.
Yep. It says, from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations.
Right, and they shall not be reckoned among the nations, meaning they're not going to be recognized among the nations. All right, so go back to that's the outcasts, the exiles, you know, the ones that are pushed out, the ones that are excluded from everything else. But these are the ones that are included in the Most High's plan. Ain't that something?
And the nations, they hate that. And they're trying to, and they're fighting against that. This is why when we say that we're Israelites, they fight so vehemently against us being the Israelites and say, no, you are not the Israelites.
Yep.
Okay, who are the Israelites? We don't know, but you can't be one.
Oh yeah.
You know, because they don't want you to be recognized as a child of the Most High.
Yep.
You know, because then they understand that you are superior to them. Okay, and they can't have that.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Morning. Morning.
It says, for I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee from all thy wounds, said the Lord, because they called thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion, whom no man seeketh after.
See, this is Zion whom no man seeketh after. You know, that's why, because they cut us off from being a nation. And nobody who really, you know, I mean, besides, you know, wanting to be the talent, you have the talent and use the talents that Jake produces, who really wants to be like Jake? Nobody. You know, nobody's really looking after Jake. Should I say all the nations want to be like Jake, but they're not looking after Jake? You know, because they don't want to be in the condition that Jake is in.
Yeah, they just want the abilities and the attributes, you know, to be able to sing and be able to dance and the athletic ability.
Yeah.
You know, even they want Jake's melanin. You know, they want Jake's hairstyles.
Organs.
They want just organs. You know, but to actually live a life of a so-called Black Hispanic Native American, that's too shameful.
Yep.
They would rather be anybody else. You know, so, but this is their world. This is okay. This is their world. This is their time to shine. And now that their light is being taken out, and they're fighting against it. Okay. Verse 18. Thus said the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places.
That's it.
And the city shall be builded upon her own heap.
Yep, and upon her own heap, because the land of Israel is going to be totally destroyed. And the land is going to be built upon that heap, because the land of Israel is going to be totally engulfed in flames. And then it's going to be rebuilt. So in order to really reestablish the kingdom of heaven and the Holy Land, the Lord has to totally annihilate it and rebuild it from the ashes, so to speak.
Yeah, yep, yeah. The nuclear missiles, that's going to be the demolition team that's going to come in and level it, because only then now you can rebuild. You know, and it also it's going to be the cleanup crew, the cleaning agents. Yep. To clean up that land. Okay.
Yeah, because the land is polluted, it's filthy, and you got to remember how many thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have been murdered there. Jake's, you know, other nations, whatever the case may be. So that land is totally polluted. Then all of the, pork and shit that they've been sacrificing there. And man,
all the wicked sacrificing that's been there, all the blasphemies, the worshiping of different idols and gods. That land has to be completely cleansed. All right, and the nuclear fire is going to be the agent to do that.
Woo.
Okay, it says, and the palace shall remain after the manner thereof, and out of them shall proceed thanksgiving, and the voice of good.
Yeah, Salakia.
Okay. Yep, and out of them, and the voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small.
There you go.
Their children also.
Hey, remember it says, lengthen the tents. So the Lord's gonna lengthen them tents. He's gonna make the earth bigger. We're gonna be able to go into other, galaxies and planets. So it's a man. That's why, like the Apostle Paul said, the present tribulation we're going through is not to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed afterwards.
That's right.
Because it's going to be far beyond anything that anybody ever imagined.
Yeah, we can't even imagine it. We don't even have the mental capacity, to imagine the great things that Yahweh Shema Shai has prepared for those that love him.
Yep.
Okay. It says, their children also shall be as aforetime, and their congregation shall be established before me. And I will punish all that oppress them, and their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governors shall proceed from the midst of them.
Right, we're not going to be voting for presidents of other nations, governors and vice presidents and leaders from other nations.
And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me, said the Lord. And ye shall be my people, and I will be your God. Behold, the whirlwind of the Lord goeth forth with fury, a continuing whirlwind. It shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked.
Yeah, that's the chariots. They're going to destroy Esau's bitch ass. And the wicked of the other the nations here in America, and the wicked among Israel. Go ahead.
It says, the fierce anger of the Lord shall not return until he has done it, and until he has performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it.
Right, in the latter days you shall consider it. And that's what we're coming to right now. So all of this stuff is going to be taking place in these times now. Time of Jacob's trouble, the deliverance of the elect, the destruction of America, and then begins the next chapter, of the Lord's movie, which is the kingdom. Anything else? So with that, we pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till next time we say Shalom.
Shalom.
I'm through right now.